Hi, everybody. I'm Chris Preimesberger, editor of eWEEK. Thank you very much for joining us today for this latest segment of eWEEK eSpeaks. It's our series of conversations with IT thought leaders from every corner of the business. Our interviewee today is Steve Grewal. Steve is the Federal CTO, Chief Technology Officer of Cohesity. And Cohesity does a lot of different things, but maybe, Steve, you could explain it to us. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Thank you for having me. Yeah. So our entire mission, Chris, is to simplify data management, right? We're kind of in this world now where, based on the public cloud, based on on-premise data centers and edge solutions, we see data exploding at a very rapid pace. And for us, it's all about how do you, protect that data, manage that data, and continue unlocking value from that data. There's a series of use cases and workloads under that data paradigm that we support, starting from data protection or backup to files and objects to disaster recovery, as well as a marketplace concept as well. Think of it like the Apple App Store, where, now that you've fundamentally centralized your data assets, you can continue bringing apps to the data and unlocking more and more value and innovating with that data. So, a lot we do, but end of the day, our mission is to radically simplify data management and starting with protection.
Yeah, Cohesity was one of the first companies I remember that really came out with the term data management as a service.
Yeah.
So I think you're one of the pioneers in that. Tell me just real briefly, tell me the difference between data management as a service and storage in the cloud.
Yeah, sure. Good question. So there's a series of deployment models and architectures that we support. Storage in the cloud, historically, when we were working with the various cloud providers, we are cloud agnostic, and we work with the big three. We have native integration where we work natively with these cloud providers on use cases such as retention, archiving. Storage in the cloud, we also have a fully featured Cohesity Cloud Edition, which you can install. Think of it as a bring your own license model. So if you're leveraging AWS, Microsoft, or Google, you're able to do that as a secondary deployment model. And most recently, DMaaS, or data management as a service, is a true turnkey SaaS-based cloud consumption model. So we recognize that based on business requirements, the changing market landscape, pricing, as well as cybersecurity and privacy, that all things aren't equal. So depending on where organizations are in their journey, we support that entire continuum. Everything from as you referenced, cloud storage by leveraging Cohesity software to more cutting edge true SaaS offering, as well as everything in between, like the on-premise data center and remote office, branch office solutions. So we cover all of that.
We just had, you touched on a key term or a key thing just a minute ago, data privacy. We just had on January 28th, International Data Privacy Day. And, we have an international day for almost everything, pancake day, hot dog day. But data privacy is something that we need to be reminded of all the time, and that we throw so much of our, excuse me, so much of our data around every day. We buy things online, we share things with people on social networks, on and on and on. What does in the B2B IT world, what does Cohesity bring to the table that is data privacy focused for your customers?
Sure. So we everything from data governance, right? Having greater asset visibility into those data assets, being able to tag those assets, being able to manage those assets, and even things like regulations like GDPR, for example, right? As we mentioned, data growing and data scaling is moving at a very rapid pace. So what I like to call compliance automation, right? I think to really manage the data in a responsible and ethical fashion, we're going to have to rely on technology, and more specifically, automation of managing those data assets. So not only are these organizations able to monetize based on their business motives, but the consumer, the customer also has the ability to understand the terms of service around this data. What's number one, first and foremost, what those data assets may be, how they're being utilized, and what's the impact, from an opt-in, opt-out perspective. So, we offer that compliance, automation, and more broadly, that data management platform to ensure that you're able to manage those corresponding data assets for the constituent and the consumer.
Okay, can you just take a minute and run through a use case, or give me an example of how this works in real life? Because I think of data privacy as one thing, is protecting my data. Whenever I want to buy something or I want to interact with somebody, I want my data to be safe wherever it is in the world.
Yeah.
And it's Cohesity's job to keep those channels pure, right? Uh, could you just give me an example of how this
Yeah.
works in the real world? That would be great. It would help our listeners, I think.
Yeah, I think GDPR is a good example, right? All the requirements that come with GDPR on how the data needs to be stored, how the data needs to be tagged, what are some of those geographical boundaries that the data must, live within, the corresponding classification, all of those requirements that, let's say, come with a GDPR, like regulation. Cohesity provides the technical ability to everything from that discovery, cataloging, management, all those areas that I talked about. So you have the policy component of a GDPR like regulation for privacy, but to actually implement that is where you need these platforms and the corresponding, the technical capabilities to actually, put that into motion.
Yeah. So Cohesity has to be on the ball at all times when regulations are updated or changed. For example, I know California is going to be updating its CCPA regulation that went into effect a year ago, January. How does Cohesity handle these rapid fire changes? And they're not just national or international. A lot of them are really local or regional.
Yeah. So the corresponding controls that come with these regulations and how that should be done, we're incredibly nimble and agile as a company. You've followed some of our growth, but based on our development expertise and our product management groups and engineering organizations, we have the ability to incorporate, technically speaking, these new requirements, and how does that translate into controls that are required at the platform or at the file system level to ensure you have that coverage.
Okay. Now, do your customers have a menu of services they can pick and choose from? Or is it one platform in its entirety that they buy? How does that work?
Yeah, so it's they have the ability to pick and choose what they deploy. They do purchase something called, data platform, which is the overall platform. And depending on use case and workload that they decide to implement, then they have think of it as a catalog or menu of services that they can deploy over time. Most of our customers, 80+% of our customers, will initially start with data protection or backup. So think about a sound data protection strategy and architecture for a hybrid multi-cloud era. That's typically what they start with, and that's what they land with. But over time, we see customers embracing Cohesity for file services, for object services, even leveraging us for disaster recovery capabilities, for DevSecOps type initiatives as well. So there's a lot, from a platform and a broader data management perspective that customers can do. But we also recognize that change management can be incredibly tough. And we want to provide customers the ability to move at their own pace based on where they start and how they grow and evolve as part of their overall Cohesity journey.
Yeah, you just touched on some things I was just going to ask you about. I guess you were kind of reading my mind there. When you have a good, solid data platform management service like yours, customers often find other ways to use it, don't they? I mean, they may buy it for one or two things, and then they'll realize later, wow, I didn't know this. We could use this Cohesity for A, B, and C over here that we didn't even know about.
Yeah.
So that takes me to trends. What kind of trends are you seeing in this business? And your customers, you guys listen to your customers very well.
Yeah.
Your customers asking you for as you go further? Are there other features and functionalities on the platform, or what?
Yeah, I would say most importantly, what you mentioned, right? What I like to call a point to platform movement or transformation. Historically, yes, people bought a lot of different products and technologies to do different things. But in spirit of reducing complexity, saving dollars, reducing the attack surface for cybersecurity and privacy, so forth and so on, we're seeing a platform movement inside the data center as well as the cloud, right? So that I would say that is a major trend that we're continuing to see across the board, is that folks want to do more with less. You certainly want to be mindful of vendor diversity and making sure that you're architecting things in a certain fashion, but that's really where they want to go. They also, I would say, another key trend is that while hybrid multi-cloud and the public cloud is front and center, and customers want to embrace that architecture, they still want to be in control of their data. And what I mean by that is, no matter if you're leveraging the public cloud or you're not, you want to design for and solve for an environment where you have complete control and unfettered access to your data. So think of it as a common unified data fabric across all of these environments and across all of these architectures, because the plumbing and stitching will continue getting better. What's best of breed today may not be best of breed tomorrow, but end of the day, I think we can all bank on the fact that data is your most strategic and most critical asset, regardless of which industry, sector, or mission you may be in.
Yeah, and Cohesity knows how to take care of your data. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
And so you said one thing I did not realize. Is Cohesity available as an application that can be running on a private server in a data center too, or is it
Yes.
is it just a cloud class type app?
We are a software company. We are hardware agnostic. However, we do support deployments inside the data center. So, again, understanding large enterprise customers and large federal agencies still are, managing workloads and applications in the data center. They want a flexible solution that can accommodate for the data center, can accommodate for the public cloud, and everything in between, whether that's remote offices, branch offices, managed service providers. So we can support all of those deployment scenarios.
Very good. And you guys have your own service bureau to help people get it up and running and maintain it?
Yes, we have an entire workforce of technical staff, professional services, engineers, others who help get customers onboarded. So everything from initial deployment to sustainment and operations.
Very good. Steve Grewal, the Federal CTO, Chief Technical Officer of Cohesity, based in Maryland, USA. Steve, thank you very much for your time today on eSpeaks.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it.
For everybody following along to the end here, thank you very much. Have a great rest of your eWeek. Thanks for joining us on eWeek eSpeaks. Go to eWEEK.com to hear more conversations with IT thought leaders.